Hey, what's going on everyone? It's your host, TheJuan&Only, and today I got a quick video for you guys. As a bandaholic, I know this video is long overdue, but I've been asked plenty of times throughout my YouTube career. One, how do you clean your Apple Watch bands? It might sound like a silly question, but especially when sometimes you're dropping upwards of $50 for the regular bands, and who knows, you might be even copying a Hermes band, in which case you might want to know how to protect that shiny $350 plus band. Well, don't worry, I'm here to tell you it's really easy. You just have to be a little careful depending on the material. So I would classify bands into four main types. And that is any of the bands that have a woven cloth-like material, such as the woven nylon or the braided solo. Then you got the classic Fluoroelastomer or silicone bands, such as the Nike sport bands. You got the metal bands, which are a few of them, such as the link bracelet or the Milanese loop. And then finally, you have the leather bands, which you need to be particularly careful with these if you don't want your leather to age or morph quickly, known as the patina process. So guys, buckle up. This is gonna be a quick one. We're gonna get right to the point. So let's go ahead and roll that intro. Guys, really quickly before we start, Apple's September event is rumored to be held somewhere around the 7th to the 10th. It's not confirmed yet, but there's going to be a plethora of items announced, including the highly anticipated iPhone 14 and the new a ton of new bands, which you already know I'm excited for. So if you don't want to miss any of that coverage, hit that subscribe button down below. All right, enough with the introductions. Let's first start out with the easiest bands to clean, and that is the silicone or fluoroelastomer bands. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I take showers with my watch on, particularly when I have sport bands on, and that's because these are the easiest to clean. You don't have to worry much about soaps. You don't even have to worry about getting any liquid on them. The liquid will just run straight off and it'll dry out pretty quickly and fairly effortlessly. Then I just recommend getting some soap, a lint-free non-abrasive cloth, or a microfiber cloth, which I have plenty here of. Shout out to my friend Mike. And what you're gonna wanna do is just run them under the water and then just add some soap. I would not advise bar soap. Dishwashing soap has worked for me in the past in getting a lot of those tough grease stains out if you do have any on your silicone band. So just like you'd be washing a dish, just make sure that you get all the edges, especially where the Apple Watch connects to the insert. So some of these are called lugs at times, but it's the attachment that goes into your Apple Watch. Make sure you get that part and then just let it dry out. It's that simple. After washing them, they'll dry up and they'll look brand new. There's no reason why these should wear and tear after washing them, unlike the leather bands. All right, the next category, and that is any of the woven nylon or any of the bands that have any kind of cloth-like material. That includes the jumping single tour bands on the Hermes line, the braided solo line, and the sport loops. Now these are slightly different from the fluoroelastomer bands. I also tend to take these into the shower with me just because they hold up quite fine. However, once again, if you're weary of taking your Apple Watch into the shower with you, the process for these is very similar to the silicone bands. The only difference is that you have to allow these time to dry out. Dampen half of your microfiber cloth, make sure it's nice and wet, and then what you're gonna wanna do is you're just gonna slightly go over the band, getting out any smudges that it may have. You could run all of it underwater. Sure, you can do that. I sometimes do that when I shower. Just make sure you set out the band somewhere where it's not exposed to sun and in a nice and cool environment so that they dry out. That's how I clean my sport loops, and it normally does the job quite well. If you have a really tough stain, then what I would recommend is hop into the shower with this and just scratch at it, scrub at it until that stain is gone. So that's how I would clean those. Once again, you can take these into the shower, but these are more susceptible to wear and tear given the type of material. This isn't fluoroelastomer like on your solo loops or sport bands, so a lot of scrubbing on these over time may weaken the material or make it look a little aged, so just be careful with that. All right, and then we have our metal bands. So these are stainless steel. You don't have to worry about these rusting or anything like that. Now the good thing is, because of the nature of stainless steel, a lot of stains don't really get stuck on it. If you somehow manage to get a stain on something like your Milanese loop and it's harder to get out that stain, do the same process as with the cloth-like materials. Get your microfiber cloth, dampen the tip of it, start wetting it a little bit, and as it's drying, go ahead and try to scratch or scrape off that stain that you might have. Once again, I very rarely run all of these completely underwater. If I want to wash the entire metal band, instead what I'll do is I'll just dampen my microfiber cloth and just go around the entire band until it air dries out on its own, and then it's like new. So the metal bands actually are probably easier to clean than even the silicone bands, just because you can scratch or scrape off most stains off of them. And finally, we arrived to the leather bands, which some include the leather link, the leather loop, and the coveted Hermes bands. Now, you have to be careful with washing these, as leather, the material, acts very differently than something like stainless steel or silicone. Typically, if I have a stain on a leather band, I'll wait until I get home and be very, very careful when you're doing this. On leather bands, of course, you never want to take these into the shower with you, nor do you want to run these under the faucet. The leather material will morph and age, and especially if you expose this to direct sunlight or in a room where it's really, really hot, or say outdoors, it will morph and change your leather, and you could potentially ruin your band. Instead, be very careful and dampen the very, very tip of your microfiber or lint-free cloth. You don't need the cloth to be that humid or moist. Just get maybe 2 or 3 drops of water on them, and you might want to have just a dash of dish soap nearby. You're then just going to want to dabble some soap very carefully, and you're going to want to just go over the spot over and over and over. Then get a dry cloth and make sure that you go over that same spot to dry it out. And finally, on its own, leave it out to dry, and 9 times out of 10, that stain on the leather will be gone. You never, ever, ever want to clean these while you're taking a shower, nor do you ever want to cover them in soap and then run them under the faucet. And drying this out is very important and crucial to cleaning it, because while you could leave something like the silicone bands outside to dry, this one, depending on humidity, depending on different factors such as sunlight and heat, this could also make the band morph and change, like I said. So there's no easy way about cleaning the leather bands. You just have to be very meticulous and very careful. If you follow my method, it gets the job done for me quite well. But again, do this at your own risk. So guys, there you have it. That's how I clean my Apple Watch bands. I have over 350, so I don't have to wash mine as regularly, but some of the sport loops tend to start getting a little stinky after extended periods at the gym or while you're running. It's typical. Hey, we're all human, we all sweat, right? So it's really important to keep your bands uptight and clean so that they don't start to stink and people start turning your heads, and not for good reason. Like I mentioned, the easiest ones to clean are going to be any of your metal bands and then the silicone bands. On the cloth-like bands like the woven nylon or braided solo, it's a little tougher. Just make sure that they air dry out in a nice and cool environment. And finally, as I mentioned, the leather bands, be extremely careful with how you take care of these, especially while cleaning them. Most people don't like their leather to look really old and aged. So if you want to avoid that, avoid humidity, sunlight, and high temperatures at all costs. Guys, if you found these tips useful, definitely drop a like. It helps my channel out a lot. I really, really am excited about the Apple September event coming up real soon, and I can't wait to cover it and show you guys everything that is new. So guys, that's been it for me from now. Once again, remember to subscribe, and I can't wait to catch you all in the next one.